Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we are at the last of our missing characters series for the Beastmen, where we'll discuss their lore, their rules on the tabletop, and how they could be implemented into Total War Warhammer. Today's character is SLUGTONGUE, so without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this character to those who might not be aware of him, we'll read over his entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 7th edition army book for the Beastmen. SLUGTONGUE, the Famine Fiend, the Barren One, Lord of the Black Harvest. The repulsive creature known as Moloch SLUGTONGUE is an anathema to cultivated life and natural harmony. Everything mankind does to harness nature, every act of order intended to trammel the chaos of the wild, can be undone by a single gesture from SLUGTONGUE's blackened claw. SLUGTONGUE is the cold talon of winter incarnate, and famine follows in his wake. Stalking across the lands of man like a black hobbled crow, SLUGTONGUE turns the most fecund and fertile valleys into barren and freezing wastes, crawling with poisonous vermin. At first glance, SLUGTONGUE could be mistaken for a deaf devil, for his head is a little more than a leering bovine skull, and his emaciated body is covered with liver spots and coarse white hair. Yet on closer inspection, SLUGTONGUE teems with life, albeit of the basest kinds. He is host to colonies of fat black lice, hopping fleas, bloated ticks, wriggling worms, and stink-bodied cockroaches that infest every dark crevice of his wretched frame. Centipedes crawl out from his empty eye sockets, and slugs spill from gaps in his rotten teeth when SLUGTONGUE croaks his pronouncements of slow but inevitable doom. Worse still, he is surrounded by an aura of numbing cold, his stinking breath coalescing in ever more disturbing shapes, and his tattered robes hung with jagged icicles of filthy and unimaginable fluid. As repugnant as SLUGTONGUE is at first hand, the signs of his passing are just as disturbing. With a single whispered phrase, he can unleash the power of blight upon the land and those that defend it. Ravenous living hurricanes of skull-headed locusts whip and tear across the crop fields, reducing them to shocking ruin in seconds. Rivers of virgin meltwater turn to bile at the sound of his gargling, phlegm-choked laughter. With a single word, the skies fill with writhing clouds of transparent maggot things that rain down into freshwater lakes like a living hail. Storehouses full of golden corn and sheafs of barley are open to reveal nothing more than rotting black sludge, and barrels of fine ale yield nothing more than a thick gruel of infected spittle. Each of these vile transformations is pleasing to SLUGTONGUE, for he knows that those on the brink of starvation are soon driven to acts of foolhardiness. It is not long before those living under the dark blight of his presence marshal their armies in their desperate need to lift the curse that ravages their lands. But those who follow SLUGTONGUE are ready for them, knowing full well that war follows famine as surely as winter follows autumn. When the armies of the starving and frightened march to confront SLUGTONGUE, they are met by hordes of well-fed, hot-tempered, and battle-ready beastmen who descend upon them from every direction. It is not long before these bestial armies are hacking apart and trampling the weakened foes that dare stand against SLUGTONGUE's curse, whilst mocking laughter drifts upon the rot-scented winds. SLUGTONGUE was a rather interesting character in the tabletop, very reminiscent of Morga the Shadowgave, but with a more Nurgle approach rather than just general corruption. On the tabletop, however, he was pretty much full of generic stats, Nothing too impressive if I can be completely honest. He was a level 2 wizard who had access to 2 spell laws, either the Law of the Wild or the Law of Death, and I'm assuming should he ever get implemented into Total War Warhammer, he would have access to both, or a singular spell line with a mix of spells from both laws, very similar to how some legendary heroes are now being implemented. In regards to generic special rules, he has poison attacks and regeneration. I'm assuming that if he ever gets implemented, he could find a way to give an army poison attacks themselves. In regards to any unique special rules, he only had one, and he had no magical items. But his unique special rule was known as the Curse of the Famine Fiend, and it goes as follows. Not even magical creatures can escape the veil of famine that SLUGTONGUE draws across the land. Immediately after deployment, each enemy unit within 36 inches of SLUGTONGUE must roll once on the table below. This is using a standard d6, and the results are as follows. 1 to 3, no effect, the enemy unit does not take any damage. 4 to 5, crippling weakness, the enemy unit suffers d3 wounds with no armor saves allowed. And on a 6, starvation, body and soul. The unit suffers d6 wounds with no armor saves allowed. Obviously, something like this would be incredibly overpowered, even if it was just a campaign mechanic. Being able to do damage almost map-wide would be kinda damning. Sure, it would make the Beastmen actually do some damage for once, but it's still a bit too much. If anything, they would probably change Curse of the Famine Fiend into something more akin to a bound spell. Something that would do damage to a multitude of units, possibly either area of effect wise, or a single target spell which would do a decent amount of damage to a multiple entity unit. The character has no special items or any other special rules, but he still has more lore than Helman Gorst. And no, just by that I'm not saying that he would be a decent legendary lord, but more than likely a legendary hero, as SLUGTONGUE does have some interesting lore about him, and he could possibly serve well as a legendary hero caster. As I had stated before, when joining an army, he could grant poison attacks to the whole army, and due to his regeneration, he could also maybe increase casualty replenishment, something that might actually work rather well. Honestly, I only see this character being implemented in the form of a legendary hero. There's really no chance of him being a legendary lord, but then again, Creative Assembly have surprised us in the past. But what do you think about this character? Would you like to see him as a legendary hero or a legendary lord? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.